Welcome to the Pearl Lam Podcast. Today we have Sam Cox, who is Mr. Doodle. We are at my gallery, Pearl Lam Galleries, where we have Mr. Doodle in Space. So Mr. Doodle has created this solo exhibition, creating a narrative about Mr. Doodle and Mrs. Doodle went to space. And during this journey to space, he met with different monsters, which he created. And later on, he was invaded by his twin brother, Dr Scribble. He defeated Dr Scribble, and he and Mrs. Doodle has the little baby Elfie and live happily ever after. So may I introduce Mr. Doodle. And Sam, please give a little brief about yourself. Again, to audience who would not have known you.
Yeah, I'm Sam Cox, and I call myself Mr. Doodle. I'm a doodler from southeast England, and I just love to doodle like as much of the day as possible. I just try and doodle on everything I possibly can, and that's really what my work's about, and that's kind of who I am.
In the traditional or the conventional art galleries, we usually have artists who is from the traditional training. They went to art school, and then they start working with showing their art in different exhibition, and then start with the small galleries, and then they gradually went to a big galleries and show their work internationally. And then they have their own collectors who would go there and go to these galleries or some younger galleries to find young artists. But you is very different. I have collectors from everywhere, and collectors whom I never met. And they are usually not conventional art collectors. Some of them actually are first-time buyers. And if not, they have been collecting works, which of course, because you are the only artist, now, you started us doing all these popular, all these animations, very cutie, with art with narrative. But these are a whole group of new collectors who loves your work because they were on social media. I never realized that there's so many people are on social media. What is your feeling about it?
I think that lots of people, that their way of like digesting art or finding new art is through social media now, I guess, because people are very busy, and not everyone has time to like go to galleries to be introduced to new things now. So they'll check their phone and they'll find something new on Instagram or Facebook or something. And because my stuff got shared on different pages and everything, I guess that's how a lot of people kind of found my work and started to follow it. And I guess it's kind of bringing in people who maybe they might not go into galleries and museums for whatever reason, really, but it's just kind of bringing those people into the art world, and then I think it's it's a great kind of process of sort of attracting or sort of relating to people around the world.
But I'm very surprised because I always have collectors who like to collect art, conceptual art, because they talk about the society, the urban development, the politics. But now I have a whole group of collectors who just want to have your work there because they're happy. They just want to be happy. They said, after a long day's work, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to read anything. I come in and I see Mr. Doodle's work. It just gives me joy and happiness. It's something which is pretty incredible because we don't need to pretend to be deep.
Yeah. Well, I guess that, like for some people, that is their reaction because we're often surrounded by like news and things that tell you all this like what's going on in politics or what tragic things are going on in the world, and for some people their response to that isn't to purchase or collect a piece of work that tells that story or tells that narrative listening to on the news and stuff or something, or says something about it. They just want something that feels like an escape, or just makes them smile, that has no agenda or any doesn't tell them like which way to think or which side to be on. It's just...
And also children loves your work. Remember the first day, the opening night, there was this little boy, 5 years old, was actually kneeling down to the mother, please, please, please buy this work for me, please. It's incredible. It's incredible. I forgot to ask you, one important thing is now you're like a rock star. First thing, I was told by my staff, first night you arrived in Hong Kong, you went to a hawker store. Already you were sitting down, there were people coming to you and asking you whether you're Mr. Doodle, asking you to sign, and then what happened? The owner of the hawker store came and asked my staff, who's this person? Is this a movie star? And then he took your picture, he sent to his daughter, and then he came and said, oh, he's the artist, and the daughter briefed him, and he didn't even want to charge you on the mill. And then, they were utterly surprised. And then the other day, when we were in K11, you were swarmed by people. We have 2 bodyguards for you. We were all taken aback. And today you're going to MTR, and my staff said that you need 4 bodyguards. I never seen an artist who would have 4 bodyguards. You're like a rock star. What's your take about it? Me, it's the first time I have an artist. It's an artist who doodle.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of funny, really. It just it feels kind of surreal, really. But I love those interactions with like meeting people and just like shaking someone's hand who's come to see the performance or see the work, and like telling them, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it, and just giving them a big smile and trying to make them feel like warm and treating everyone exactly the same, no matter who they are, and just like making sure they know how grateful like I am that they support the work and stuff, because and I think it's a great position to be in, because when someone comes up to you and you can tell they're like excited to like meet me and stuff, I feel like I can really like make their day, like make them really happy that day, and make them go home to their families and feel really like full of joy and stuff. And I love that feeling of being able to do that, and I always try and give that to them.
At 3 years old, you start to draw, and then you were copying cartoons and all that. What sort of cartoons were you doing?
I was watching a lot of like The Simpsons on TV, and also a cartoon called SpongeBob SquarePants. And I used to copy these cartoons, but most of my inspiration came from video games mostly.
But 3 years old?
Yeah. I mean, I just, I would sit and draw things, but I didn't really like drawing sort of what was kind of in front of me in real life, like outside in the garden, or like trees or flowers and stuff. I used to like drawing things from the TV screen and like these kind of cartoonish, sort of vibrant, colourful animals and made up creatures and things.
But you have 2 brothers and 1 older brother. Don't you beat each other up as boys does? I mean, playing guns, pistols. I mean, what did your elder brother do then? When you were painting, don't you have a conversation?
Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, when I was, really young, I didn't just draw all the time. I also, we used to make kind of funny films and stuff, and often I'd be like holding the camera, and my 2 brothers would kind of act something out, and we'd make up a little story, and we just sort of made funny stuff that wasn't very, like it was just kids like imagining things and being imaginary characters, and like we'd run around, and sometimes my younger brother, he'd like pretend to jump out the window of the upstairs of our house and like fall to the ground, and like we'd do sort of funny things it was really badly filmed and stuff, but it was kind of a lot of fun,
But at 5 years old, you start doodling yourself, right? Just doodle without copying. When do you stop? I mean, copying other cartoons and start creating by yourself?
Yeah, so I was copying these cartoons for a long time, and then I started wanting to see these like video game characters like in different stories that didn't exist. So I started drawing them like in new settings and stuff, and then that led to me like designing my own characters and thinking, oh, you know, I want this guy to be like the main character or this guy and stuff. And then I started drawing my own things, and then it really became this sort of doodle kind of style with lots of different characters all at once when I was about 15 years old.
Yeah, and then I understand that when we had a conversation, you were a really great businessman because at 13 years old, you start doodling on T-shirt and selling it. And then you save up all your money to be spending in your university, to get art supplies, to get food. I mean, you are a real good businessman. Man, how do you, I mean, does all your friends want to have a doodle T-shirt?
The first one I did was like I drew this city, and it was all kind of like polluted. There was like steam and stuff everywhere, and smoke and stuff, and there was all these like mechanical like machines and things. I love to draw like really busy images, so that's the kind of things I was drawing, and I did it onto like a white T-shirt. And what I did was I drew it out, and then I made, because I didn't have like a printer or anything like that, I sort of cut it out with a knife, like a scalpel knife, and I made it into a stencil, and I sprayed these T-shirts with like the design, and then sort of sold it to all my friends and other people and stuff. It was only like £5 or something, but the T-shirt cost me like £1 per T-shirt, and then I would sell it for £5 and stuff.
So how many T-shirts did you sell to support your all your 3 years university art supply and food?
Well, I didn't just sell the T-shirts. I also the thing that brought me more money was I used to sell like sweets at school as well. So
what do you mean by you selling sweet? You just buying?
I used to buy like chocolate bars like in bulk, and I'd go into school and like sell chocolate bars and fizzy drinks and stuff to the kids. And
my God, you are a real businessman. How do you get all those wholesale prices?
Well, it's weird actually, because it was actually cheaper to go to like the local supermarket, and I used to buy the multi-pack bars that say, you're not supposed to like sell them individually and stuff. That was actually cheaper than going to buy it in, the big cutting cost places and stuff. And so I did that, and I did that for probably 3 years, and it saved up sort of about £5,000, and that helped support me.
Wow. Well, what amazes me was when you do your childhood series. Let me explain to the audience what is our childhood series. He has his parents save up all the sketches that he made since you were 3 years old or whatever, and then you take all these sketches and you reinterpret it as today, which for me is really amazing that your parents actually give you such support, saving all the sketches. So from young, did your parents actually see you as an artist?
Well, they knew, I think they really, immediately understood how much I loved to draw, because I would do it quite a lot, and I'd go to, my bedroom and I'd spend hours just by myself, just drawing and stuff. And then I'd come down and show them, and there'd be like quite an obsessive amount of, drawings of cartoons and characters and things. And I don't think any of us really knew like where it was going. But they would just support my kind of passion for it. And they thought, I sort of had a kind of like a talent for it, I guess, in some way, even though it wasn't very good when I first started. But then as I got older, I kind of thought maybe I'd be like a designer for like cartoons on TV or like video games or something.
You never thought that you would become an artist?
No, because I didn't really know that like I could do this as an artist, because I didn't know many artists in my life. Like I didn't look at that much, like I didn't go to that many galleries or anything. Went to a few, but I was kind of sheltered, I guess, from a lot of like what was out there.
Because your family has none of your family members are into art anyways.
Not really, no.
That's why.
Yeah. So, but then when I got to being about 15 years old, and then my teacher Morgan, he he showed me like, all these street artists and old like pop artists and things, and suddenly I was like, oh wow, they can actually do like this kind of thing for a career and stuff, and that was really kind of exciting for me. And then I sort of started to see it in a totally different way, and then from then on I just put everything I could into trying to make it work and stuff.
By the way, for all the audience, I want to stress on one thing, is Mr. Doodle's art teacher, Morgan, is now at the Mr. Doodle studio as the artistic director. Yeah. And then he's now advising on many things that Mr. Doodle is doing, especially with the prints.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, me and Morgan we would always talk, even after I left school, and we would text each other, and I'd send him like pictures of what I was doing and like the latest animations I've been making, and he'd always try and advise me and give me like suggestions for where it could go and push it to the next level and stuff. And then one day I just thought, I was asking him actually, like, it was a summer holiday, and it was just after like my wedding, and their school was on their summer break and stuff. And I said, are you looking forward to going back to school and stuff? And he said, I'm looking forward to, working with the kids and stuff, but a lot of the administration stuff's getting a bit like on my nerves and stuff. And I said, oh, if you're ever thinking of making a change, like, we'd love to work with you and everything. And sort of from there, we just kind of really excited about the idea, and it's been really great since. And it's really cool because, sort of, he's not like my teacher anymore. He's like
15 years old, your art teacher. I love that.
Yeah, and he's more like a friend now, and we get along really well. And I don't, always take every suggestion he has.
Of course, it's all about discussion.
Yeah. But I think we just had these very like inspirational conversations, and they tend to bleed into what I do later on and stuff.
Okay, so next step, I mean, you were in the university, you studied illustration, and from illustration, how did you come to become an artist? So you were participating in street art. You didn't even have a galleries, right? You didn't even understand what galleries were.
No.
I mean, because you were telling me that you were doing some record covers.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, please share it with the
Sure.
audience, which is really interesting.
Yeah, sure. So I was pretty like clueless about the art world, really. Like, I thought, galleries were places that you'd just like rent to show your work and stuff. I didn't know that, galleries like represented artists and worked with them to, further their career and things like that. So my experience was very like limited, and but I didn't really sort of let that intimidate me and stuff. So I just sort of tried to get my work out there in many different ways. And often I was quite interested in like hip hop music, and I would approach musicians like local in the UK and stuff, and I'd ask them if I could make a music video for them, and I'd sort of take these like characters I'd draw and turn them into animations and stuff, and I'd spend maybe like 5 or 6 months on each of these projects, and they would be very kind of time consuming. And then I'd make these sort of 3-minute videos with the sort of characters and things, and I'd also design like album covers for people and stuff like that. And it wasn't really like, they didn't pay me to do it, but I just tried to do it to get my work seen out there and stuff.
And how was it? I mean, how was it? Do you get a lot of records you were making, designing, and all that? Was it a really great business and exposure for you?
To be honest, like not really. Like I enjoyed it, and I thought it would go somewhere, but it didn't really like do all that much, to get me out there in the end. Like, it was I liked the work and I was proud of it and stuff, but really what got me recognized was kind of later on, when I started wearing like the doodle suit and going out into the public and like performing in front of people, rather than like doing these things like in my room or in my studio and then putting it out on the internet. It was more these things that I did like in real situations where people could come and see me.
I'm really surprised that when you went to school, like illustration, no one actually told you that you could have joined a gallery. Okay, joining a gallery is very difficult, but at least it's the first step to expose your work. And how did you then become a street artist?
But, I mean, I guess what it was is that when I studied illustration, the tutors were great, and I still stay in touch with them and stuff. But the course wasn't really about like people becoming like artists or fine artists and stuff. So they didn't really talk about galleries or representation in that way. It was more like helping people a lot of focus was on like drawing things for like children's books or illustrating text, like people giving you text and then you responding to it with a visual, and that would be books or posters, or often like illustrations for newspaper articles and things. And what I was doing was starting to go off on a different path, but I didn't want to change course. But tutors would try and support me in the best way possible, but we didn't really know like what it was that I was going to become. We just wanted to see where it would go and stuff. And then I did a lot of like murals out in the public, like street art and stuff.
When you say street art, you don't have a license to do it. You just create graffiti, basically.
Early on,
right?
It was like that. Yeah, like I used to go out with some of my friends, and we'd go out maybe at night time and stuff and paint on things that we weren't really supposed to paint on and stuff. And then I got in trouble for it when I was about 19 years old, and I was drawing on these signs, like just drawing little characters and stuff. And I got like caught doing it. And then since then, I never did that anymore. And then I just moved into the realm of kind of trying to find a space that someone would allow me to draw on. So I'd approach lots of like fast food places, and I'd say like, can I draw on your wall? And I'll draw like, pictures of burgers or things that relate to the business somehow. And in return, they'd, give me food for like a week or something.
Hey, did you doodle your parents' house? Everything? Do you destroy your parents' house?
Well, I wanted to doodle their house. They let me doodle my bedroom, and they give me bits of furniture to do. And one time they let me do the downstairs bathroom, but I had to cover it in paper so it wasn't permanent and stuff. But they were very supportive. If I said I've got an idea, they'd try and make it work without any permanent damage and stuff. But it made me just dream of having my own place, like later on, where I could fully kind of cover with
Which
doodles.
you did.
Yeah.
But it's very surprising, when I start working with you, is then we find out that all the things that you were doodling on the wall and on that, and people want to knock down the wall to sell and to put the wall into auction.
Yeah.
It's like one of the cars that you did, which is a caravan, which you did for your friends. And then later on, it was chopped into different pieces and was in the auction, which is really, how do you feel about it? Do you feel that, is a positive feeling, or you feel that is taking advantage?
When I did that caravan, it was I'd just left university, and it was almost like 10 years ago. And my friend I said to him, I was like, I really want to, paint as many walls and objects and things as I can. And he said, we've got this caravan, and he's always had it in his garden, and you can paint it if you want. And I said, oh, great, I'll do that. And it stayed there for like 5 years, and I just painted it and made a video out of it and shared it and stuff. And then in 2020, when the auction sales of my work started to go up and things started to go to auction, my friend, he saw that, and he was like, oh, is it all right, if we sell the caravan and stuff? And I was like, yeah, of course, it's your caravan. And I wanted to help him, and he's one of my best friends, so, I really thought it was nice and everything. And so he put his caravan onto eBay, and I think he put it up for like £30,000 or something. And someone saw it and said, I'll pay you £10,000 for it, but I want to cut it up, and I want to because it had gone quite old and moldy and stuff. So they had to fix it up with paint and things. And he asked me, is that okay? And I said, yeah, it's fine. And I signed something to allow it to happen. So he sold it for £10,000, and then
only £10,000.
Yeah, but he was really happy because him and his family split it between, I think, 5 of them, and they all had some money. I guess it was probably 6 months later or something, it came up at Christie's, and then
then it was chopped into different pieces.
Yeah, and I was selling for hundreds of thousands. And my friend, he was texting me and saying, oh no, I'm so sad because he's,
It was hundreds of, exactly.
Yeah, so it was a good feeling to help him. But then when it went on to do that, I was still excited that my work achieved that price. But then I think now it's kind of kickstarted this thing where all these murals are done in the past.
I mean, yeah, people want to knock down the wall.
Yeah.
And send the wall to be auctioned.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's kind of a bit of a shame in some ways because they were created.
Yeah, because it was for the wall.
Yeah, and they're meant to be like enjoyed in public spaces. I mean, the caravan's a bit different because it was like a private space, but usually these walls are, on the street or in someone's like public space, and it's meant to be there to be seen by people, and then it ends up being chopped down and never seen again and stuff.
So, do you enjoy doing live performances in public?
Yeah, I love doing live performances. Yeah, that's my favorite thing to do, I think. Yeah.
Your favorite thing. So
Yeah.
today you must be very excited because today we are doing. Sam is doing a live performance at the MTR, which is the metro, the tube station. But you are collaborating with children.
Yeah.
So the children and you are going to doodle on a spaceship.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be really cool because it ties in perfectly with this new exhibition with the spaceship. And I think doing things, in public, in really busy public areas like a train station is really exciting because you just get, like anyone will walk past, and you're kind of bringing people into the gallery somehow because lots of people don't go into galleries and museums and stuff like how I didn't when I was a kid. But, I'd go into train stations. So, and everyone does. So it's the way of reaching just like kind of everyone from any walk of life and stuff. So that's what really excites me.
So, it's, since you become making more money, what impresses me is that you are actually giving back to society. You do things for the children charity. And this spaceship is going to be donated to and actually you donated to MTR, and NTR in terms donated to Make-A-Wish for the children's charity. Why children's charity? Why not other charity?
Well, there's lots of charities that I think are good and stuff, but I like the children's charities because, when I first I did a doodle marathon for 50 hours once.
50 hours?
Yeah.
What do you mean by doodle marathon?
We did a couple of them, and me and my friend from Norwich, we find these like shops, and we'd cover it with paper, and we'd draw over the paper, and I'd draw for like 50 hours, and he'd sit and watch the whole thing and film it and stuff, and then we'd cut up the paper into pieces, and we'd sell them, and all the money would go to this place called the Teapot Trust, which helps kids with like chronic illness, and they do like art therapy with them, and just try and have like a nice time and let them express themselves and just give them the space to be open and creative, and something about that charity really, like I liked that, helping kids, and kids are so kind of like innocent and nice and like honest and like pure, and I just think it's nice to do something for kids because a lot of like my work is as much as people kind of think it mostly like appeals to children and things, I think it's often enjoyed by kind of adults as well and stuff, and I think it's nice to do something that directly links to kids, because that's kind of the time of my life where I fell in love with this sort of type of art and stuff. So yeah.
Do you think that doodling and this meditative, your OCD drawings is a kind of art therapy?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, when I don't really think intentionally like that, but like when I do draw and I just draw for like 12 hours and without like a break or something, and I just keep going and get lost in my world, I sort of lose sense of time, and even lose sense of like where I am, even if I'm at home or even doing a performance in front of people. I might just kind of switch off to where I am, and I just get lost in this world. And I think it is like a kind of meditative state or therapeutic.
Yeah, because Zuckerberg called this as flow art. Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So you do think that this help you to, because you're focusing, and it is a sort of therapy because you're not thinking about all others stress, or you're not being attacked by stress, or think other concerns or worries and all that.
Yeah, I just have a really happy time when I create the work, and I feel really fulfilled in myself, and that's the sort of emotion that I want to express when I draw. So hopefully it translates to other people and they feel similarly when they look at the work.
Because, popular art, Mr. Doodle, you are judged by the popular culture. And you have an Instagram, 2.9 million people following you, which is really a very different way of a traditional or conventional art world. Conventional art world is always judged by curators, art critics, and we're talking conceptual art, which is about politics, society, philosophy, urban development. But your work, specifically, I remember when we were talking, your work is not about politics. Yeah. It's not about society. Your work is giving a narrative. You built in this narrative, and you do whatever it comes to your mind. So at any point, I remember whenever we ask, you specifically, and you stress that you don't want your work to be linked with politics.
Yeah.
So do you care about the conventional art world, the judgment of the conventional art world?
I think I don't know, I just care more about like what I think about myself, and whether I can go to sleep like happy that night with like what I created, and what I did that day, and whether I feel like I did a good day's work, and whether I feel like I felt like I was expressing myself that day and not what other people might want me to do and stuff. And yeah, I don't want my artwork to have any kind of message at all, really. I just want it to be, that is the sort of message, is that there is no message, and it's sort of meant to be just enjoyable to everyone, or to anyone, to anyone from any place on earth, or any walk of life, and I just want them to be able to, see something that they recognize and just smile at it, and that's kind of the sort of purpose of it, I guess.
This brings me to ask you and discuss about the general feelings whenever people see your work and they say, oh, this is Keith Haring. He's copying Keith Haring.
Yeah.
So I always say that Keith Haring, many of the drawings that he does, he's talking about the social issues, he being and homosexual and all these other issues. But yours is completely different because you create these little creatures and you have your monsters. I'm seeing all these, and you have Mr. Doodle together. You are actually creating a story in your mind.
Yeah.
And it's purely for aesthetic and to have joyfulness. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, I love Keith Haring's art, like obviously and stuff. But it's not the sort of social commentary or political aspect that brings me to him. It's that what speaks to me really is the way where I watch videos of him work, and the way it just feels like a flow from another universe coming out of his hand, and he just creates lines and shapes, and it just flows, and there's no sketch, there's no hesitation, it just comes out, and that's what relates to me, and I think the content of the work is very different, and the reason for it ultimately is the most different thing, I guess. Yeah.
But when you start drawing with such confidence, do you feel like that this is like this is what you learned from Keith Haring, or you have developed it since you were a child?
Well, I mean, I kind of was doing this sort of thing for a while before I was like introduced to his work, but when I saw it and then
you resonate.
Yeah, Morgan would show me and stuff, and then I'd realize, we kind of do it. We've got something very like similar here, and then I'd look into his work and use it as like a reference point and think about like how he did things and stuff, and then realize like how much of a relationship there was there and stuff, but I think when you just draw like this, you have a canvas or a space or something, and you just draw without thinking, then you can't like copy anything, because the sort of copying stuff involves stopping and looking at something, and it just comes out, and it has to feel natural for it to work. So it kind of can't be derived from anything really.
But would you say that you are influenced by Keith Haring's aesthetic?
Yeah.
Or did you already doodle after and you start doodling and then you were introduced to Keith Haring and then you look at it and then you're inspired by that?
Yeah, so I was like doodling like this and then saw like Keith Haring's work.
So your live performance, do you see your live performance is very similar to Keith Haring's?
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I mean, I it's hard because there's not huge amounts of documentation of Keith Haring's work, and like there's not that much chance to see like how he did things like that. But I think the process of just, it's almost like a dance or something, and you're just kind of flowing and you just don't stop, and the energy just comes out. I think that is the similarity. But even the tools we use are different, because he would use like paint brushes and things like that, and I just tend to use the marker and stuff.
No, and I think that I don't know whether Keith Haring does correct his and his work,
Right.
But you do really huge work that you never correct one stroke.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the way once it's created, that's kind of the way it's meant to be, and I think that I'm interested in like what a doodle is, and that's why I called myself Mr Doodle. And it's like a doodle is something that kind of comes out kind of subconsciously and naturally, and you're not supposed to. I don't think you're not supposed to correct it really.
No, because it's drawing subconsciously.
Yeah.
And doing aimlessly and subconsciously.
Yeah, and then the kind of beauty of it is meant to be this just like natural, like raw image that comes out just instinctively.
And what is the biggest area or canvas or building you have ever done? Is it the one which is near your home?
That would be the biggest single wall.
Single wall, and how big it is, so the audience will know.
Sure. I think it's about 17.4 by 10 meters. So it's about 17.4 meters tall and then 10 meters wide. That's the single biggest wall. But in terms of like space covered in a single place, it'd probably be the house.
Oh, of course, the house. Yeah. The house, of course. You spent 3 years on the house, right?
Yeah, well, we spent
your COVID time
almost a year like preparing it and getting it all painted white, and then 2 years doodling it.
Are you proud about your house? Because everybody's talking about the house.
Yeah, I'm very proud of it, because it's something that I thought of for like 10 years before I even started it. And what I like about it is that I kind of wanted it to become this like artwork that I would kind of be known for. And now some people who'd never seen me before come up to me and say, oh, you're that, they don't even know who I am, but they're like, you're that guy who drew on his house. You don't know my name or anything, but they kind of recognize the artwork of the house. And it kind of became this thing that got shared around the world that I think everyone could kind of find something in, because people all live in a certain space. And then like the idea that someone would cover everything that they live in with drawings is kind of interesting to almost anyone, I think.
Okay, you have to be very honest with me. When you sleep in this room, okay,
right,
which is all doodle. Do you get dizzy? I mean, your bathroom, your bathtub, everywhere, your kettle, your fridge, your television. I mean, everything is doodle.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it. I don't know whether I can live in it. Maybe I can spend like 7 days, but living there day and night. I mean, what did Mrs. Doodle say? And then, Alfie, your little baby Alfie is growing up with this, all the doodles around.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel about it?
Well, I love it. I mean, I've never felt dizzy in the house. I've just become so like used to it really, and just it makes me feel kind of inspired, like walking around and looking at the characters and things.
Yeah, you're jealous.
Yeah, but when I first met Elena, Mrs Doodle, on the first day we met, I said, like, I don't know how it came up, but I said I really want to draw in a house one day and like live in the house. So she knew from the very first day that was always my dream, and she got fully like on board with it and was very supportive, and you know, always wanted to see it happen, and helped me like find the right place, and just pushed me every day to kind of keep going with it. And then with Alfie, he's so used to living in the doodle space now that when we take him like away or somewhere, like for a few nights or something, we have to take like doodle fabric with us to make him feel to sort of make him feel at home and stuff, because he misses the doodles.
So that means that if you bring him to a minimalist hotel room, he will have a shock of his life.
Yeah. Like even on the plane, like where we've flown somewhere, we put up little doodle stickers on the seat and stuff so that he can like look at them, and because he loves to like look at the characters, and he likes to scratch them or try and grab them and stuff, and he's really interested in like the faces and things.
So amazing, because I love the house, I love to visit, but living for there 365 days, I will have a little doubt about it. But it's amazing that you actually enjoy living there.
Yeah.
The only white space is the ceiling.
No, even the ceilings.
Oh, yes, it says that. The ceiling was also doodle. Of course. I nearly forgotten about it. Of course you doodle the ceiling, especially the cloud room. Everything is, they're all doodle. So you're opening your new studio as well, right?
Yeah. So we're building a studio in the garden, and that will be really nice for me, because at the moment I'm working at the top of a church in the town where I live.
Yeah.
It's nice, and it's worked really well for me, but I'm kind of growing out of it now, want to do bigger things, and it's not very easy to access and stuff. So the studio in the garden will be really good for me, because I'll be able to just walk from the house into the studio and spend as much time as I want there. And it's a great space, and I'm really excited about that. Yeah.
So I think a lot of audience would want to visit your doodle home and see your new studio.
Yeah.
So you are one of these young artists who made famous because of social media. And I remember you told me that one day you were doodling on the floor, and an American lady came in and took a video of you doodling the floor. And then it went viral.
Yeah.
So on that time, that was when, 2015?
2017.
Oh, 2017.
Yeah.
And then you became huge. Everybody started knowing you and all that. What was that big change? From not knowing, what were you doing at the time? Were you selling your doodling to all the shops in exchange?
So I was doodling in this shop in Old Street Underground station in London, and I covered all the walls in paper and the floor, and I was drawing on the floor, and this lady came and filmed me, and the video ended up going onto Facebook and getting shared by all these pages, and suddenly all these notifications were coming into my phone, and people were buying. I was selling like posters and things on my website at the time. For I think it was like £20 or something, and all these posters were suddenly getting sold, and I was thinking, where's this all coming from? And I found out it was from this video, and then for the next week, it was such an amazing week, or I don't know how long it lasted, that sort of energy and stuff, but
frenzy.
Yeah, it just felt kind of crazy, and I remember my mum was helping me, and we were rolling up posters because there were so many to send out, and I was signing them. She'd roll it up and put it in a tube, and then me and my granddad, Papa Doodle, we went to the post office with these big sacks of tubes, and people were getting really annoyed with us because we were holding up the queue behind us, and just sending all these things to Japan or sort of Mexico and all these places around the world. And it was really kind of spread out. It was people from all sorts of countries were buying these posters and things, and T-shirts as well, and then from there, the following just kind of grew up, a few 100,000 or something, and then other things happened. Other people then shared videos when I do other performances, and because there were so many more people aware of it, when things started to get shared, it generated more and more followers, and then I did more performances and stuff, and it just kept kind of going like that, really. But it was yeah, it was a really amazing time because up till then, I didn't know, if that was even possible or even if that would ever happen. So I just was just doing it for the love of it, and then it ended up kind of getting really lucky with it.
So, when was your first project when you go abroad, and where was it?
Well, the first one when I went abroad was I think it was the trip to New York in 2016 where I drew in someone's office. But the first one after that big kind of takeoff was to Hong Kong actually in 2017. And that was when I was drawing over in a shopping centre called Mirror Place.
That was your first time. The Mirror Place was your first time.
Yeah, so that was 6 years ago. Oh, it was similar time to this time of year, and yeah, I loved it, and it was really amazing actually because it still amazes me now. But on that first trip when I came here, and people would recognize me in the street, and it was so far away from my home that I thought, wow, how do these people know who I am and stuff? It was really surreal. And but
what do you do at the Mirror Place so the audience knows?
Sure. It's a big shopping centre, and we did this sort of Christmas themed doodle takeover. So it was doodles that had pictures of Christmas trees or Santa Claus and stuff, and they covered everything, the floor and the walls and stuff with this sort of with this tiled wallpaper wrap. And then I drew on it was a kind of London theme, I guess, with I had a Big Ben sculpture, and there was a London taxi that I drew over, and I did a few performances and speeches and stuff. And yeah, it was I guess it was sort of promotion for the shopping centre and stuff.
Wow. And first time.
Yeah.
But the following year you also came back for the Sotheby's things, right? 2 years later.
2 years after, yeah.
So
yeah.
after so after the Hong Kong is which other places?
So after Hong Kong, there was a few different trips, but the main thing I did next was preparing for my first sort of solo international exhibition, which was Doodle World at the Ara Art Centre in Seoul, and I basically created reinterpretations of lots of famous landmarks and sort of leaders of different countries, but in a doodle style, with all full of doodles. So it was almost like doodles had taken over the world, and that was sort of my collection of work for that space. And that was the next sort of trip, and then following on from that, it was several trips to Tokyo and Taiwan and
how about the Mexico when you were working with the British Embassy?
Oh yeah. So I got invited by them to create a few installations and murals and things in, I think it was March 2019, and it was actually straight after going to a trip to Tokyo. So it was I went out to Tokyo, then I went straight to Mexico, and my body clock was kind of all over the place. But it was really fun, and it was really cool in Mexico actually.
But actually, Sam, we are talking about 2017, and then from 2017, and your career just exploded.
Yeah.
Because you were invited for collaboration by Fendi, Puma, Samsung, and all that.
Yeah.
That for young artists, it must be a huge surprise that all of a sudden, from one end, you jump into to become so successful.
Yeah. I was just really happy and grateful that people were enjoying the work, and the doodles and stuff, and it was just it's really fun because all these people comment on my pictures online and sort of share it with their friends and stuff, and it was really great for me, and I think it was nice for my family and friends as well, because they could see it had gone somewhere, because I think for a while, maybe some of them were thinking Sam gets dressed up in his doodle suit and goes and draws, but where's it going? Why does he do it? And how long is it going to last? And then I think that all after 2017 kind of validated it for if some people had maybe some doubts or something. And it's really nice because people I remember Popper was watching he'd always check my social media and stuff, and he loved it when he saw like the followers go up and stuff, and he'd always text me and say like,
Papa was 80 something years old.
yeah,
oh my God.
and he'd always text me and say like, oh, you're on like 1.1 million now, 1.2 million. He'd always send me a text and sort of, and say, yeah, thanks, Papa. It's cool, isn't it? And he'd always try and like, you'd say like, well, how did that happen? Why did it go up? And I wouldn't always know the answer, but yeah.
So how would you advise young people who want to become an artist? Is social media really such an important thing, an important platform for you, for anyone who becomes an artist? Disregard the conventional way of working in galleries, having a museum recognition and all that?
I guess maybe it depends on what kind of artist you are. I know for me it works really well because of like how I want my work to be and how I want to attract kind of everyone to it. But for some people it might be more, there's maybe different methods that are better, but I think it's not a tool that should just be kind of dismissed. I think it can be really powerful and a really like good way to just engage with people like instantly from anywhere. Like we've never had that before in sort of humans like sort of lifetime and stuff. Like to be able to just take a picture or take a video of something and share it with just like an endless amount of people is a really amazing thing. It's an amazing time to be alive, I think, from that aspect.
But as a gallery, it's really tough because, I'm trying to make a popular artist to be academic and to be accepted in an academic and a curatorial way. So my job is to revert back, not just the public, but we want the establishment endorsement as well. So I thought that everybody's commenting that your live performances in M+ Patron Room, they love it. So I think now M+ wanted to collect your work. So I think all that is reversing, because a lot of artists, first they need to have the curators, guardians, art critics saying they are great, and then the gallery will push them, then they have the establishment, and then they become commercially successful. You commercially successful, and you have a lot of popularity. But now we have to bring a popular artist into being endorsed by the establishment. So we're doing reverse. It's not so easy, but we're very happy that next year you are going to be in a proper museum, Holborn Museum in UK.
Yeah.
So it will be your first solo show.
Yeah.
So working with, for my experience, working with a popular artist is completely a new experience.
Right, okay.
A new experience as well. You're doing collaboration. Traditionally, conventionally, an artist collaborating, being a commercial success, being collaboration is frowned at. But today with the social media, it's changed everything.
Yeah.
I think the technology with your generation of artists must be very important.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of interesting because I think it's like people have a tendency to dismiss certain things if they're popular. Like I think sometimes, like if someone has a big following, or even not just artists or musicians or something, but even like a popular like brands or food or something. People sometimes think, like everyone likes that, so I don't want to like that, or don't want to sort of give credit or approve to that. So it's kind of maybe difficult to change perceptions. But I think when, as you were saying, when you do a live performance in front of people, I think it's hard for people not to somehow engage and get something from that, and they can't dismiss it so easily, I think, if they see it in person and stuff. So I guess it's difficult to change perceptions, but I think it's kind of a nice problem to have in a way, I think.
How did you come out with a doodle suit and you understand branding? very much because your job, I mean, you create from a doodle man to Mr. Doodle, and then you create the work, and the work and you is the same.
Yeah.
So you actually created a personality. And how do you, how do you create the whole personality, like Dr. Scribble, and of course in your life you have a dog, so now you have a doodle dog.
Yeah.
So share with us about
well-
all your imaginary characters.
Yeah, it was a real, gradual process. It didn't just happen kind of like straight away. I mean, the becoming like wearing the doodle clothes was because I was drawing on lots of different objects, and I just wanted to create a photograph where I like blended in with the mural behind me. So I drew over my suit and I went into university and sort of blended in with the mural. And then my tutor kind of nicknamed me the Doodle Man. And then I thought, oh, that's, interesting. And then I realized like how much more kind of interesting that is maybe to me than just being like Sam Cox who makes pictures. But like if you're Mr. Doodle, then you're within this world and people can like come into the narrative, and there's like there's just more to it, and there's more like things to be interested in and more like to talk about and stuff. So it was really a very gradual process. And then I created like Dr. Scribble, the evil twin of Mr. Doodle.
Yeah.
And I think it's fun because then it's like the story between the two, and they're like battling each other, and you can take that into so many different performances or like installations and stuff. I just try and like have fun, and I'm trying to kind of create things that that would interest people who aren't really interested in art. Because like I think if you see like a kind of funny video of like Mr. Doodle doodling a room and then Dr. Scribble coming and erasing it, then that's kind of funny to like people who don't even, might not like paintings and stuff, but they kind of just like this performative element of it, I guess. And that's what I'm trying to do, is to try and create things that kind of out of the realms of traditional spaces, I guess.
You're not even 30 years old. You're still under 30 years old. How do you see your next 10, 20 years going to be? What is your dream? What is your next big dream that you want to do?
I really want to, after doodling the house, I've dreamt now about doodling a whole town. And I really want to doodle the roads, the cars, the buildings, and create a very large landscape where
your doodle world.
Yeah.
You are creating Doodle Land.
Yeah, and then I think it's the best kind of expression that I'll probably create of sort of showing how I want to doodle the earth. It's like a manageable way to do that, but I think it's going to take many years, probably 15 or 20 years, because I want it to be very detailed, all hand drawn, and really kind of like an amazing place. And I want to create a stop motion film of that as well, and make it like a sequel to the Doodle House, and then a battle between Mr. Doodle and Dr. Scribble. And I think that'll be one of my favourite things I'll ever do. So that's kind of my sort of one of the self-initiated things that I'll try and do on the side of everything else. But in terms of other stuff, I just want to keep that real like fun element of my work, and just see where it goes, really. I don't know exactly what will happen, but I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. I've still got so much energy for it, and I just love doing it every day and thinking of new ideas, and I don't think I'll ever want to stop it, really.
So, in your mind, you are going to continue until the end of your life?
I think so, yeah.
Doodling.
Yeah.
So, do you think that you're going to train little baby Elsie to do doodling together with you?
Well, only if he wants to, I want to put things in front of him, like give him some pens, give him paint, and give him like musical instruments, like a camera if he wants to do some funny like acting or something, I don't know, like, and just all these different tools, and let him like work it out. But I think it's important that we sort of give him as many options as possible.
Oh, I forgot to ask you a question. I mean, besides using marker pen, have you tried to use other things? You use brushes, right? Sometimes. When you're doing canvas with your acrylics. So what other things do you use for doodling?
Well, yeah, my favorite is pens, because it's such an instant, nice, clean, neat process. I also like using spray paint for outside. It's a bit more durable, perhaps, than pens. And I like using, things like chalk as well. Or sometimes brushes, but I don't really get along with brushes as well, really. I just don't find that you can get such a clean line, and that's sometimes important to me in certain instances. But I also like using even things like a little like drill type tool to carve into things. Or like I like to draw digitally or like animate things, screen printing and stuff like that. I try to take the drawings to lots of different mediums, but it usually gravitates back to pens at the end.
Sam, we have a great time and a great conversation, and I hope I'll see you in London very soon.
Definitely. Thank you, Pearl.
Thank you.